McLaughlin with Grace Upon Grace, a ministry of Grace 25. Today we're going to continue in our study of the book of James. We're going to be starting chapter 5. A well-known pastor once said that on his deathbed, one of the last things he would want his church leaders to say to him is, pace yourself for the long haul. But this is something that all believers need to understand. God intends for us to endure from the start to the finish. Near the end of his life, Paul wrote in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 through 8. The time has come for my departure. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award me on that day. In the beginning of his book, James also talked about a crown. He said in James 1:12, blessed is the man who perseveres under trials. Blessed is he who has stood the test. He will receive the crown of life that God has promised those who love him. See, God has called all of us to live out the principle of endurance. And we've been going through the book of James. We've been talking about principles. And lately I have not been re-emphasizing them just for time factors. But there's a number of principles. We're probably on principle 12 or more we've looked at in the book of James. And today we're going to look at the principle of endurance. And that simply means to stick with it and never give up. I know I have, and probably like you've known many Christians who over the years have given up on the Christian life in one way or another. Some have completely abandoned the faith. And some have just abandoned the dreams they once had of achieving greatness for God and doing something for his glory here while they're here on this earth. Instead, a lot of people, not only Christianity, but in life, just settle into a life of lazy, self-centered mediocrity. Why is that? Because it's too hard. They want to do good, but too often people expect things to be easy. Particularly if people will start a new business. An entrepreneur, for example. They have the dreams, but yet when they get going, it doesn't work the way that they thought it would work. It doesn't happen the way that it happened. You know, and just like the Christian life, it isn't easy. But we have to keep in mind, God has promised us a great life. He didn't promise us an easy life. So as James begins to bring his letter to a close, he addresses this topic of endurance. He says in verse 11 of today's passage, chapter 5, as you know, we consider blessed those who have persevered. Have you ever noticed how respected, even the media, respected Billy Graham when he was alive? Do you know why? Because he endured. And not only like Christian people, but also other people in the world. When they live their life and pass away, there's a lot of respect for them because they persevered, they endured, they stuck with their dreams, they stuck with their purpose, and they didn't give up. And even though, like Billy Graham, they might have made mistakes through the years, they still stuck with it. In Billy Graham's autobiography, he said that he had some regret. He said, there's some things I wish I had done differently. But he never quit. He kept going on. He never gave up. And now today he's considered one of the greatest evangelists of our times because he persevered. See, God wants this very same thing for your Christian life and my Christian life. He wants us to endure till the end. Because those who endure are blessed. So today as we look at part of James chapter 5, verses 1 through 12, he shows us three things out of this principle of endurance. That if you want to settle in for the long haul, there's three things that you need. And today I want to discuss with you the first one. And this is this. We need to have as Christians the right attitude towards money. We need to have as Christians the right attitude towards money. Now, don't turn me off. I know there's another message from a pastor about money. It's about an attitude. Jesus begins chapter 5 with today we call a rant. He blasts out really at rich people. Listen to what he says. Verse 1. Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth is rotten and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corrupt. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workmen who moved your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Almighty God. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourself in the days of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered innocent men who were not opposing you. Now, I don't know about you, but these are harsh words. But really, to be honest, they didn't apply to a lot of people of James's time that he wrote these words. But I believe they apply to many people throughout the generations and will apply to many people in generations to come as long as this earth stands. But I also believe that they apply to us today, especially verse 5. Let's look at how it says in the New Living Translation. You spent your years on luxury, satisfying your every whim. This is how some people live. Their eyes are constantly on the next acquisition. As soon as they get a new car, you start thinking about a new home entertainment system, maybe a swimming pool, a vacation of your dreams, or the boat that you want to buy. And it seems to never end. There's always thoughts of you getting more and more and more. James is coming back to something he mentioned in chapter 4. If your aim is to enjoy this world, you can't be a friend of God. Now, don't misunderstand me or misunderstand James. He's not talking about enjoying his life. We can have a great life here. He's talking about enjoying the world, the things of the world, the wants, the desires, the ambitions of the world, which can be summed up in the attitude we talked about before. It's all about me. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a nice car, a nice home, boats, vacation, things of that nature. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't misunderstand me. What is wrong is an attitude that I've got to have more. I've got to have this because it's about me. See, the hypothetical rich person that James describes in verses 1 through 6 has this kind of attitude. See, he doesn't care who he steps on or has to abuse to become wealthy. All that matters to that person is that they're able to attain their wealth. They're able to satisfy the desires of their heart, the whims of their heart. And James is telling us, don't be this person. If God has blessed you financially, he's telling us that we have an obligation to be generous to those who are not as blessed as us. And I'm here today to tell you that God has blessed you financially. When I talk about rich people, many think, well, he's talking about Gates or Forbes or other people, professional athletes, actors, government people. But the fact is, on a global scale, everyone who is alive today in this earth, particularly the United States of America, if you have food in your refrigerator, if you have clothes in your closet, if you have a bed to sleep in, if you have a roof over your head, you're richer than most 75% of the rest of the people in the world. Even the people in poverty in America are richer than most people in the rest of the world. So in essence, God has blessed us financially. And we don't have to feel guilty about that. But we do have to take a responsibility for what God has given us. Jesus reminds us in Luke chapter 12, verse 48, For everyone to whom he much is given, from him much will be required. Jesus is calling us to adopt a right attitude towards money. And it's really quite simple. His attitude he wants us to have is simply this. Don't go about getting your riches in a way that takes advantage of others. And secondly, don't spend it all on yourself. I remember talking with a Christian businessman. He was telling me about the dog-eat-dog world of big business. And he made a quote like this. I can't wear my robe, my choir robe, to the office. In essence, what he was saying to me, that he was professing that what he does on Sunday, he can't practice Monday through Friday. He's a very tough businessman. And his goal is to win, which it should be the goal of all business people. He's very blessed. But his blessings have come to him at a cost of compromise. I've heard other people throughout the years tell me, well, business is business and religion is religion. And the two don't mix. They're like oil and water. But they're really not. See, on our jobs, we might have the opportunity to pull a fast one from time to time, but be able to cut a few corners here and there in order to get a few extra dollars. But is it really worth it? See, don't get your money in the way you take advantage of other people. I can share two personal examples with you. When we're in a pandemic, as we are, with COVID-19. And even though you signed up for something and you can't participate in it, when the owners of that business will not allow you to get out of it because you can't participate, and they want to charge you extra money and all this stuff for getting out, that's taking advantage. And a lot of senior citizens have been taken advantage of because of this. And there's companies out there that I won't mention their name, but lie to you. They have false advertisement. Switch to our phone company where you get free phones, etc., etc., etc. And they tell you to your face as you're switching your business, oh yeah, we're going to give you this free phone, we're going to pay off your other line. And then you come to find out they lied to you. And they don't feel bad about it at all. And they don't do anything about it. You go back to the counter and talk to the business person that you did business with, and well, my hands are tied. You got to talk to corporate office. You talk to corporate office. There's nothing they can do. People that do business like that, and I'm just giving you those two examples, are going to lose, and they're going to lose drastically. They might think they're winning, but when you take advantage of people, and particularly poor people or people on fixed incomes, you're going to lose drastically. And we don't want to be that type of person. God doesn't want us to be that type of person. And even maybe we don't have a business, in our activities, he doesn't want us to be that type of person. And God doesn't want for us to spend all we have on ourselves. But see, you have to be the judge of that. You have to be the one that takes a look at how you spend your money. See, there's a balance between taking a vow of poverty and spending every penny on, and then you spending every penny on your pleasure. Two different things. There's a quote that's given. An old proverb says, "Give till it hurts." And that's really a good guideline to follow. And this is how C.S. Lewis says it. I'm afraid the only safe rule is to give more than we can spare. In other words, if your expenditures on comforts, luxuries, and music, etc., is up to the standard among those with whom the same income as your own, we're probably giving away too little. If your charities do not at all pinch or hamper you, I would say they're too small. This ought to be the thing we should like to do and cannot do because our charitable expenditures includes them. See, when you and I have the right attitude towards money, greed and selfishness can't get in our way. When we have the right attitude towards money, it gives us the power to endure. And that's what God wants us to do. I pray this has been a blessing to you today. If it has, I appreciate if you pass it on to your friends on Facebook. If you have a prayer request, I'd like for you to send me your prayer request. I'd be glad to petition the kingdom of heaven for you. And I covet your prayers for myself and for the ministry of Grace 25. My prayer today for you is this, that God will bless you exceedingly abundantly more than you ever could ask or think. And I pray that you would have a grace-filled day. God bless you.